Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I have a package to open. This is an interesting one because it is from a knife company that is very new, at least as far as I understand, and I had more than one person. In fact, I probably had between 5 and 10 people reach out to me specifically, like DM me, not just like comment, hey, you should check this out, but like really reach out to me and recommend I check out this knife company. This is from Asher Knife Co., if you haven't read the title by now. But yeah, I reached out to Justin over there, as several people recommended that I do. As everybody said, he was a very cool guy, and he was more than happy to send me something to check out. I asked him what he would most recommend that I check out first from them, and his recommendation was this knife. This is the Nomad. I think I'd have to look back at my messages to be positive because we talked about like all of his models, but hopefully it says in here. Yeah, we're gonna confirm that. If not, it'll say what it is in the title because I'll have looked it up when I'm posting this. So in here we have the Asher Knife Co. box. This is a nice box. I have seen much less fancy boxes from plenty of knife companies who have been in the game for a lot longer than Asher. So yeah, nice, well-made box. Let's see what we got in here. Sweet. Oh, that's rad. So this knife functions with an Axis style lock, kind of like Benchmade has made famous. The Axis lock, the way I understand it, the patent expired or whatever it was that made it, that Benchmade had the exclusivity for a long time, and so now a number of companies are using that lock type, and I'm glad they are because I really like the Axis style lock. It's a very functional lock. It's completely ambidextrous. There's a lot of strengths to it, but the cool thing is Asher, I don't know if this is commonplace, if they do this with everybody, but they sent me at least 2 extra springs for that lock. One of the complaints that I've heard many people make of the Axis lock from Benchmade is that if these springs fail, it's a total bummer. I assume part of the bummer is getting replacement ones, and that's cool that they just send them. So a couple of replacement springs in there. I've personally never had that happen on an Axis lock from Benchmade or otherwise, but alright, let's take a look here. So this is the knife itself. We have gray G10, which I quite like. I'm a fan of the color gray. I'm glad that instead of just going black G10 like everybody else, they've done this gray. It's got a nice level of texture to it. It's certainly less gritty than kind of the baseline G10 from like Spyderco or Benchmade. Definitely less gritty than like Cold Steel or ZT, any of those guys. The backspacer looks like it's white G10 to me, which is cool as well. Nice little pop of not color, but lack of color. And yeah, we've got a deep carry clip, loop over style. This I think is their like in-house design deep carry clip. I feel like I've been seeing them put this on their knives in general. And centering looks good. I would say it's just the tiniest hair towards the show side. Maybe I'm being crazy. If it is, it's barely. Let's see how the action is. Flicks well. I like the blade shape and the geometry on first look. This is in S35VN, which you've probably heard me be a little bit critical of S35VN from time to time. Most of my criticisms of S35VN are more geared towards the people who believe that when God invented Chris Reeve, and Chris Reeve in turn helped invent S35VN, that it completely alleviated the need for further progress because perfection had been achieved. I don't buy into that. There are better steels than S35VN. That's the way I feel. For some people, S35VN is their favorite steel, and the balance that it achieves is what makes it their favorite. So they don't like when I say the things are better than it, but there are plenty of steels that, from where I stand, looking at charts and assuming they're heat treated properly, are better than S35VN. That being said, S35VN is an excellent steel, and on a knife like this, it's a fantastic choice of a steel. So I have nothing against S35VN. I just like to poke fun at the fanboys of S35VN who for some reason believe that it is perfection personified. So yeah, we've got stainless steel liners all the way through here. They aren't skeletonized or hollowed out or anything, so this knife, although it on the surface looks pretty bug out-esque to me, this doesn't feel at all like a bug out. I've never handled, pardon me, a G10 bug out, so maybe this feels more like a G10 bug out, but compared to my basic bug out that I have, it feels like a totally different knife. Even the ergos, even though the shape of this is pretty similar just because it's a simple drop point knife with an axis lock, it doesn't feel at all like a bug out to me in hand. So we've got thumb studs on both sides. Let's see if I can spidey flick it. Oh, my finger got in the way. There we go. Yeah, so I can middle finger flick it with these studs, which is nice. The studs sit pretty tall, which I like. They feel very accessible to me, and I like using my thumb to deploy this knife. It's a very kind of snappy for an axis lock sensation, because axis lock knives don't have a traditional detent in the normal sense of the word. They use that kind of spring, the way I understand the mechanics of it, to build that pressure that you have to push past instead of a detent ball. Anyways, usually that feels kind of soft compared to a typical detent, but the way this one deploys, it feels really nice. I quite like it. I don't know what the weight is on this guy. I don't know what the exact dimensions are, and I'm not going to even care enough to look it up. I genuinely just couldn't care less. If those things are what the information you're seeking out of this video, you've come to the wrong place. You can go on Asher's website and it'll tell you all of that. What I can say is that this feels quite balanced. It feels like a very appropriate approach to an EDC knife. It feels like Asher Knives, they took a legitimate look at what a good, balanced, everyday carry, reasonable knife would be. No frills, nothing crazy going on here. Everything is relatively subdued, relatively basic, but it seems to be kind of hitting the nail on the head. It feels quite thin behind the edge to me as well. Not stupid thin, but a good EDC grind. This flat grind extends pretty tall. I like that we've got a little bit of a swedge up toward the front, a decent tip. The blade stock itself is rather thin. I really like that. I'm glad that they didn't go with a thick blade stock for no reason. This feels like it'll do better for what it's designed to do because they chose a thin blade stock. Yeah, everything about this is feeling quite nice. One thing as well, all of the edges on this G10 everywhere are really chamfered well. I don't know if it'll show so well on the camera, but if you look at the way that these edges are rounded, this knife feels really smooth in hand, and there's no jimping anywhere. I love that. I don't like jimping. On a knife like this, I don't know what the advantage of jimping would be. Its ergonomics already lock it into my hand. This knife isn't going anywhere when I'm gripping down on it. Having a patch of like serrations for your fingertip right here wouldn't make any sense to me. I'm glad that they didn't mess with that. This whole thing feels nice and smooth. Not slick like it's slippery, but smooth and comfortable. I really am impressed with the way this feels in hand. The clip isn't a hot spot, doesn't bug me at all. Yeah, we're going to see how this thing carries, how it performs, and this is going to be interesting. I guess this has kind of turned into my first impressions. I don't normally do a first impressions with my unboxing, but I feel like if I do a first impressions, I'm already kind of, just by curiosity of waiting for this knife and now having it in hand, I'm kind of diving into my first impressions. So I guess this will be my unboxing and my first impressions is what I'm trying to say, because I don't want to get too redundant. Oftentimes I think there's an advantage in doing them separately, but anyway, yeah, this is quite nice. I like the chamfering, I like the ergos, I like the blade shape, I like the blade grind, I like that it's S35VN, especially, I'm trying to remember what the exact number on this is. I'll link to this knife on Asher's website so you can see for yourself what all the specs are. But I remember specifically thinking, for what they're charging for this knife, getting S35VN, G10 deep carry clip, axis lock, which frankly feels very smooth, very good to me. That's nice. Axis lock action. This is one of the new ones, I forgot to mention, that rides on ceramic bearings. I think when they first launched this knife, they had planned to do it on ceramic bearings, but the manufacturer, I think if I remember reading their post correctly, there was a miscommunication, and so the first like small batch of these that they sent, I think were on washers. So I don't know what the action is like on those, but this one on ceramic bearings, this is an excellent axis lock action. This feels smoother for sure than my bug out or my bail out, which are on washers. So there's an advantage there. I don't have really, I guess if I pinch right up here at the tip, there's a tiny bit of side to side. I feel like any axis lock knife I've ever had that is able to do that. There's been a little bit of side to side. I don't really feel any front to back. Feels pretty solid as lockup goes for this lock type. Yeah, this is nice. I'm impressed so far. So I'm going to be carrying and using this for about a week. It might take me a little more than a week, frankly, with all of the knives that I have on my plate to review at the moment, but I may carry this as a secondary. It's slim enough that I could probably get away with it. So once I've carried this at least 5 or 6 like days worth, then I'll be doing my full review on it. So it might be a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks, until I'm able to get to that at the rate of how I'm able to make videos right now. But yeah, there will be a full review once I've put this through its paces. So be on the lookout for that. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this knife feels in pocket, how it cuts. I feel pretty confident in it based on just getting it out of the box. This is, it's better than I was expecting. And I had a lot of people tell me that it was a good new thing that I needed to check out. So for it to have even exceeded the perceived excitement that I got from other people is nice, because sometimes that can be a dangerous thing when a lot of people are like, you gotta check this out, you gotta check this out. I can get out of balance on what I expect from something when I see a lot of people getting excited about it. But this one is even better than I was believing it would be. So very cool. This is the Asher, shoot, I hope it's the Nomad. If not, you'll see in the caption. I believe it's the Nomad. If it's not the Nomad, it's the Sentry. But I think the Sentry is the one with the swedge and the kind of like harpoon shaped, or not the swedge, the fuller. I don't know. He's only got a couple of knives now. Pretty sure this is the Nomad. It's the new one on bearings, and I quite like it. I am impressed. I should know its name. I feel so bad. But by the time I'm done reviewing it, definitely know its name because I'm liking it so far. Alright, thanks guys. I appreciate you checking it out with me, and I'll see you more with this one when it's time for the final review.